Hello to our second assignment for this course. So last week we focused on straight lines in 4 different directions, and also as an exercise to help us open up our hands, our very minute muscles in our hands, as well as understand how to look in detail. We'll continue with that idea, but now in this second assignment we are moving to another extremely important aspect of Indian miniature painting, which is the botanical study, particularly studying flowers and petals, and in order to move our hands in a slightly different way. Last week it was more straight lines. This time it will be more circular lines, so that our hand becomes more comfortable moving in almost all directions, exactly following the flow of every petal. So for this assignment, we have broken it down into 2 sections. The ultimate aim for this assignment is to hone in on this beautiful Mughal painting, which is the botanical study of a flower. It is one of the favorite themes in the Mughal atelier in the 15th, 16th, 18th to 18th centuries. It was a favorite theme, and in which the artists would focus on particular flowers. Sometimes they would make hybrid flowers, so they are not even real flowers but imaginary flowers, and go into real details in how to render them. And this example, as you can see in detail, shows exactly how the artist outlined each and every petal, each and every flower, and then how the rendering was done. So this is something that we will learn in this assignment, not only in how to use the hand while making these circular gestures, curvilinear gestures, but also along with that learn how to make the outline, because the outline is an extremely important aspect of Indian painting. Because when you look at any detail of any Indian painting, you will see that everything is bounded within this beautiful outline, usually with a flat color outline and then rendered within. Same with this flower study. So the first half of the study is to take a flower from a border, which I will also be giving to all the students to copy, and then to make that and compose that within those very 1 by 1 inch squares that we practiced our lines on. So the idea, as you can see in the detail, is to situate this flower in that 1 by 1 inch square. So the first step is to make a very light sketch, so that you place it harmoniously within that tiny little square. And you can see how I do that sketch by just making sure that the edges are also placed within the square, the flower is centered, and the flow of the line is also even and equidistant. Then the second step is, once you are content with happy with your original very light sketch that almost only you can see, then we go over with the same light pencil, 4H or 5H pencil, and outline and finalize that outline with the pencil. And you can see this idea of correcting the drawing as you build up the drawing. Also, even in artworks that we have in this exhibition, for example, that beautiful equestrian portrait of a nobleman shows how his profile was corrected by putting in a white pigment, and that's the stage when you're doing a prep drawing. You can actually correct these things. So in a similar way, you sketch it, then you outline it, and then the third step is to gradually start rendering it and rendering each and every petal. And there's a option of how you want to render it. In my demonstration, I show you how I've chosen to render the petals, and you can follow that if you want. The idea is, once again, to make an extremely light mark on the paper, so light that it's not even visible in the first instance. The idea is to repeat the mark to repeat the very light mark again and again, so that you have this gradual shaded area emerging very, very gradually. And this sort of rendering technique, in which you repeat a particular mark, whether that's the dot mark or the dash mark, it is called pardakht. Once again, it's a Persian term that becomes part of the Indian miniature painting practice. Pardakht is an extremely important rendering technique. In the pencil, which is of course a modification of a traditional practice into a modern practice, with the pencil you make these really subtle circular gestures, and through those gestures you start to render the surface gradually, step by step. And as I show you in the demonstration, after we've done the rendering across the flower, then we go make sure to sharpen the pencil once again so that it has a really fine point, and then we go in to do a final outline of the entire drawing. And that's when you can choose to darken certain areas of the outline in order to bring them out, and to leave some of the areas of the flower light. And that also I show in the demonstration on how you, once again, you don't make one strong mark, you actually make tens of marks that are repeated again and again in the same place, so that the line gradually comes into existence. It's not a harsh line, it's a really soft line. And you will see that in the demonstrations as well. So the reason why we are doing this as a second step in learning Indian drawing and painting is that flowers not only teach you how to move your hand in different ways, not only does this assignment teach you how to render and control your line, but also once you start to notice these historical artworks in various galleries and museums and collections, you notice how important the botanical aspect is in all these artworks. Flowers and flower studies are used in border design. As you can see in some of these beautiful examples, they are sometimes also used to establish an interior space, sometimes as wall painting. They are used on clothes, they're used on carpets, and it's a really integral aspect of any Indian painting or drawing. So I think it becomes very important for us to start our training with this. So for our week 2 assignments, broken into 2 parts, the first section is to make these flower studies. Remember to take the pencil out from your cover. Always keep it in a safe place so it doesn't break, and keep it sharpened. And then we will repeat the one study that we do. So here in the demonstration, I showed you how to sketch and then outline and render and then make a final outline of the one flower. And I will be giving the sample of that particular flower from which I've made this available to everyone so that they can also do the same. But then the idea is to repeat that. So I've made 2 of these, but for your assignment you will make at least 1 row, which means at least 10. But if you don't feel confident or you want to learn more, you can make more of those. So we make the first flower, then we repeat it again and again and again and again for 10 times till we're really confident about the language, about our flow, about our hand-eye, about our muscles, everything. So make sure to sit in a comfortable position, not hunched over or not in a weird light or a weird angle, because then it'll start to tell on your body. So be comfortable first and foremost. And then we will start with this. Once this first half of the assignment is done, you've done these 10 copies of the flower, of this small flower sketch or drawing, then we will move to our second half of the assignment, which is to pick one flower from this beautiful Mughal period 18th century drawing of the flowers, and you will only select one flower and compose it in a window which is 2 by 2 inches. So the first step will be to make the window, and we should try to make sure that the window is not just randomly placed somewhere in the paper. It should be placed in the center of the paper. So you can take a ruler in order to mark a center. You can eyeball it, of course. With this cross, we have this center. You can erase the extra lines. Always make sure to make really, really light lines so that they don't leave any mark or indentation even after you've tried to erase it. Especially with these hard pencils, the key should always be to make a very light line. Otherwise, these hard pencils always leave a mark in the page. Once we have our center, we can then make a horizontal line. Once again, you can eyeball it. To be parallel to the page. And then we join these two to have a square. But before that, we can actually erase the extra. Another thing that we should do is we should take our cutter or blade and cut a larger eraser that everyone should have. Just make it into a small piece so that you can actually go into the details and erase, because with a big eraser you'll be erasing everything else. Here we have to have a very fine edged eraser so that we only erase the areas that we want to erase and not everything else. And there you have your square. And this is where we will be composing our flower, the one selected flower from the complete study. And then once we've done that, we'll also try to make some sort of semblance of a window with multiple lines so that it looks aesthetically also pleasing and also draws the viewer's eye into the drawing rather than in this white expansive space. So that will be the last part of this assignment. So for this assignment, students will have, of course, everyone will have access to a high-res image of this flower drawing on the website for this course on WICMA's website. And then students themselves who are taking this class will also be given printouts of this. And so they have multiple ways of approaching this, and they should always keep either the printout or the image in front of them so that they can look exactly how the flow of the petals and the form is. And once this is done, we will move to our final pencil assignment, which will be a portrait study. And then in the following weeks, we will then start to use the squirrel hair brush.